Hello, hello. Welcome to Best Kept Secrets of Sustainability by Diana Llanes Consulting. Today is our second episode, and after the first episode that we spoke about the environmental impact the fashion industry is currently having in the world, and among those, like one of those being waste accumulation, I decided to dedicate this second episode to recycled materials. So basically, let's say that in order to fight the waste accumulation we are currently having in the world, we have two options, and the two of them must merge and work together. The first one, of course, is to consume less and better, and that we have no option. The second one is to enhance in a circular system. What is a circular system? Because we continue listening to circular economy and a lot of circularity. We will have a full chapter on that, but just to very briefly explain you without going in depth, circularity means to keep alive the resources we currently have in the planet. And that can be done through upcycling, recycling, or downcycling. And also for that, we will have full episodes on that. But just to give a bit of a context to what each one of them are. Upcycling is to give more value to something that otherwise would have been waste. So let's say that we have a little piece of scrap, like leather scrap, okay? Because we produced shoes and the leather scraps are always there. So those leather scraps tends to be waste. If we decide to use those scraps to make something like a patchwork, that then it would become a coat, then or a blanket or a carpet or whatever, then that piece of leather, that scrap of leather becomes upcycled because it gains much more value than a piece of scrap. On the other hand, if we would use that same piece of leather and we would recycle it, we would make leather out of leather, meaning that we are keeping the same value to that material. And in the other hand, then we have downcycling. Some components, some materials can't be recycled forever because they lose their properties. So, for example, plastic and paper are the perfect example for that, because plastic and paper, they can't always keep the same properties. So if I have this paper, which is 70 grams, when I recycle it, most likely I can't keep the same white paper that is 70 grams. I might need much more paper to make it 70 grams, or I might need the same amount of paper to make a thinner paper, which usually tends to be a bit more white. So for example, like the newspaper color, newspaper paper comes from recycled paper. That means that it downcycles, and that's something we decide ourselves, that comes together with the properties of the materials. And so just to start speaking about recycling and recycled materials, there are several ways to recycle them, and this is not a solution in the sense of there is no solution that is definite and that we can say, oh, now with this recycled materials we are going to have a clean industry. No, that's not true. The truth is that thanks to recycled materials, we are applying better practices with a better footprint that allows us to downgrade in the amount of footprint we are creating. And that's why when I am consulting my clients and they tell me, I want to have a sustainable brand, and I ask, okay, what is sustainability to you? And then they say, well, we want to use recycled materials. I'm like, okay, but you know that that's not, that now the brand is fully sustainable. It's part of sustainability. It's part of the solution. It's a very little part of it, but it's still a solution. So let's start by recycled polyester. Polyester is, as we said on the first episode, the first most used fabric in the world. And there's many things that are very damaging about polyester, as there's other things that are not as damaging. And I always like saying not as damaging because I don't want anyone in here to believe that there is something that is fully good. No. So polyester is the first most used fabric in the world, accounting for more than 70 million barrels a year to create only polyester, but barrels of crude oil. But imagine that more than 340 million barrels are extracted each year to create synthetic fibers. That is crazy. So the first most polluting industry in the world, which is crude oil, and like oil in general, and the second most polluting industry in the world, which is fashion, they merge together to make the most used fabric in the world. So this is something that is very damaging about polyester, and the end result of polyester, when we do a washing machine, one load releases up to 700,000 microplastics in the oceans. And we know, because we said it in the first episode, and if you haven't watched it, please go ahead, that 40% of our oceans are covered with garbage, and 90% of it is plastic. So this is a truly damaging thing about polyester. What's the good thing about recycled polyester? So recycled polyester, first of all, we need to know that it does not usually come from more polyester. It usually comes from plastic bottles because oil transforms into plastic. So the good thing about recycled polyester is that it reduces between 30 and 50% of the energy we use to create it. And per kilo of polyester used, we are using 125 millijoules. So we would be reducing 30 to 50% of that only by recycling the polyester, which is great. Also, it would reduce those famous 70 million barrels of crude oil that we are using. Something really good about polyester that we need to know and at least give polyester some credit, because it's not all bad, as we said, is that polyester only needs 19 liters of water per kilogram we produce. Instead, with cotton, as we know, is 20,000 more or less of liters we are producing. So the difference of water usage is insane. It's insane. So polyester would help us a lot in reducing CO2 emissions, which accounts for 282 million kilograms each year. It would help us reduce on energy usage, which accounts also for part of the CO2 we are making, and reduce the extraction of crude oil, meaning that we would be sinking a bit the most polluting industry in the world. Again, it's not a definite solution, it's just part of the solution. And to make a real impact, a real good impact, we need to apply many of the solution as much as we can so we can see a big difference. Another material that can be recycled, all of them can be recycled, but cotton, I wanted to speak about cotton because cotton is the second most used fabric in the world, and it's also very contaminant. Cotton has many problems. The first one is the amount of fertilizers we're using. Cotton accounts for 16% of the world, of the global fertilizers usage, which is a lot. This global usage of fertilizers, what causes is the soil degradation, which is also one of the environmental impacts the fashion industry is creating, and we discussed about it during our first episode. If we continue degrading our soils, we will have a lot of food scarcity, and there are already too many people in the world having troubles to be fed. So imagine if we continue degrading our soils, food prices will raise, and B, more people will be having troubles to actually eat. So soil degradation is one of the first problems from cotton. Soil usage. So we're using a lot of lands to cultivate cotton that could be used for food production or for example, cultivating trees, because we're cutting too many trees as well in order to make our packaging and our cellulosic fibers such as viscose. Only in the fashion industry, we are responsible for 3.2 billion trees a year. So we could use that soil to produce something much more useful for the planet. Otherwise, the overshooting day will always come like closer and closer. At a certain point, we will get to January with the overshoot day. And also the water usage. So plus and slavery. So cotton accounts for water usage, soil destruction, and soil utilization. Also, modern slavery. I don't know if you're very aware of it, but we will have a full episode on cotton. Unfortunately, most of the cotton comes from China. In China, cotton fields are related to forced labor camps from the Uyghur. So it is a real problem. It is a very, very big problem. And the water usage, we said, okay, we are using more or less 20,000 liters of water per kilogram we produce. Well, with recycled cotton, we could save up to 765,000 liters of water per ton produced, which in terms of kilograms, liters per kilogram, it is not that big, but in a worldwide, in a global view, it's a lot. In fact, according to The Guardian, 85% of the water problems in India, they would be solved if they would use the same amount of water they use for cropping to drink. And only in India, 100 million people don't have access to drinkable water. And globally, 750 million people don't have access to drinkable water. So definitely recycled cotton is a much better way of enhancing this circular system and of being more sustainable. Again, it's not a definite solution. It's just part of the solution. And with recycled materials, we can have many more. We can even have leather. We know that also leather is a very polluting material, and it's causing a lot of not just troubles, but like a lot of confusion in the industry. In fact, also a lot of companies are like, okay, we're going vegan to be more sustainable, but we don't necessarily need to go vegan. Sustainability is a matter of balance, and leather has really good things, such as, for example, durability. I don't know if you are a vintage lover or if you know anything about vintage, but who doesn't have or who hasn't seen a purse, a pair of shoes or anything that comes from the 18th century and it's still in good conditions? That wouldn't happen with any other material. So leather is extremely durable. Of course, in order for leather to be more sustainable, there's many things that needs to be done, but we can recycle leather, and usually it comes from leather scraps. There's many companies in the world working with recycled leather. We will have a full chapter on leather as well, no worries, we'll get there. But all of this is just let's say an introduction to all of these materials and to this circular system. Our next episode will be on circularity as well, but specifically regarding upcycling, which is it's my favorite. I love working with upcycling. I really hope this information was useful to you. If you have any questions, please type them down in the comments, or let us know what other kind of topics you would like to listen to in Best Kept Secrets of Sustainability by Diana Llanes Consulting. The idea of this episodes is to tell you the truth about the industry. Anything we do, it has an impact, either positive or negative. And the important thing is that we know what is that impact, how is that impact affecting the planet and society and the economy, and therefore how to mitigate that impact in order to balance it. I am Diana Llanes, and thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to our channel so you can stay tuned in all our all the content we are creating, and share this video if you know anyone that can need this information, mostly working in the footwear industry. Also, if you're just like a passionate shopper, it could be very helpful. Thank you.